Bovine tuberculosis is an infectious and notifiable disease of cattle caused by the bacteria Mycobacterium bovis. It can also infect and cause TB in other mammals, and has been found in a number of wild animals, including badgers, deer, foxes, rats, stoats and otters. While all these animals are susceptible to infection, research has shown that badgers are a significant reservoir of the disease, posing a risk to cattle. The level of bovine TB in cattle in England and Wales has been rising for 25 years. The area affected by bovine TB has spread from isolated pockets in the late 1980s to cover large areas of the southwest and west of England and Wales today.
My name's Jo Judge. I'm a wildlife biologist. I carry out research into how the behaviour of wildlife affects the spread of disease. I've been studying the link between badgers and bovine TB since 2006.
The disease is having a serious impact on many farm businesses, families and communities due to the cost of TB testing, disruption to business through movement restrictions, and the loss of animals. This DVD looks at how to minimise the risk of bovine TB in your herd by reducing the amount of direct and indirect contact between your stock and badgers. The advice comes from the research project that my colleagues and I at the Food and Environment Research Agency have been carrying out for the last 6 years, and from the practical experience we have gained through working with farmers to see what works in the real world. In the first section, we'll learn about badgers, their behaviour, activity and the way they live. Getting to know a little about the behaviour of badgers can help you identify if you have a problem with badger visits, and by understanding their habits, you can plan what measures may work best on your farm. In the second section, we will explore some of the practical steps that you can take to minimise the risk of your herd coming into contact with badgers, and hear from farmers who have tried the measures suggested. Badgers are generally nocturnal, typically emerging from the set at dusk. They're active all year round, but less so in winter, both in terms of time spent above ground and distance that they travel while out. Badgers live in social groups, usually of between 3 and 9 adults who share a well-defined territory that varies in size depending on the habitat and how much food there is available. At higher densities, social group territories are very stable, changing little over the years. Territorial boundaries are characterised by well-worn paths and shared latrines which are used to communicate through scent marking with neighbouring social groups. Although strictly speaking a carnivore, they eat all sorts of animal and plant foods. They are opportunistic foragers rather than hunters, and will concentrate on the most abundant food source each night. In the UK, earthworms make up the majority of their diet. Local badger population densities vary considerably throughout the country, from 20 adults per kilometre squared in the southwest to less than 1 adult per kilometre squared in less favourable areas. The last national survey of the badger population in 1997 estimated that it was around 325,000. There is the perception that in some areas the badger population has increased dramatically since then, but there is no evidence currently available to support this. Cub mortality is high, and over half of cubs born do not survive to adulthood. Adult badgers no longer have any natural predators in the UK and live on average for 3 to 5 years. The biggest cause of death is road traffic accidents, which are estimated to kill around 50,000 badgers a year. Although there has never been a national survey of TB infection in badgers, the best data we have suggests that in areas such as the South West, the West Midlands and Wales, up to 30% of badgers may be infected. However, even within these areas the level varies greatly, and in certain localised areas it may be higher. The development of bovine TB is complex. It's a battle between the infection and the animal's immune system. The infectious state of badgers can change, and so an infected badger is not always infectious. TB infection causes lesions, small, spherical, pale spots on the organs, primarily the lungs and associated lymph nodes. When these lesions burst, or a lymph node ruptures, the animal becomes infectious. Infection may be transmitted through coughing, sneezing, licking or biting, or through contact with infected excretions such as faeces, urine, sputum and pus. TB develops slowly, and in the majority of cases, infected badgers do not show any external signs of the disease. Only when TB progresses to the latter stages does it lead to emaciation and ultimately death. Although TB is not the only possible cause when badgers are in that state.
As badgers are very social animals who engage in things like mutual grooming, and because they live in these dark, humid sets, it could be thought that disease would spread fairly easily between members of the same social group.
However, a long-term study found that even within social groups where infection is present, TB is not detected in all individuals. Furthermore, infection is not detected in all social groups, even in a TB hotspot area. The stable territorial social structure limits the amount of contact between badgers of different social groups, which reduces the opportunities for infectious badgers of one group to spread the disease to susceptible badgers in another group. A common misconception that as the population density rises, so does the level of infection in the population, also does not appear to be true of TB in badgers. In the majority of cases, they do not show clinical signs, i.e., you cannot tell if a badger has TB by looking at it. Infected badgers only appear to show outward signs of the disease in its latter stages. The stable social structure reduces potential for disease transmission between social groups. Infected badgers are not always infectious.